Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I have got nothing against religion, but I must admit that in Africa, particularly in general, and in Zimbabwe in particular, I think there are individuals who have exploited a religion for their own selfish ends. They've exploited the weakness of other people, making religion a cover for their own uh, misuse, to take advantage of other people. And I think our politicians definitely have done that. And Nelson Chamisa has used religion to cover for his own failures. How many times have we heard him talk about hashtag God is in it? When he was talking of his plans, and then he says God is in it, as if to say God is in those plans. And yet again and again, those plans have failed to come to fruition. Are we saying then that God's plans did not come true? Or is it a matter of Chamisa was deceiving the people, telling them it's God's plan when it wasn't, when it was his plan? Ben, what do you think of Ivo Mandasa's comment here?
Good day to everybody. Uh, I would like to start by saying, when Zimbabwe, or heading into Zimbabwe getting its independence, this Zanu PF, Mugabe, was a darling of Zimbabwe. People saw him as a flawless, as a messiah, you know, somebody that was going to come and change, Zimbabwe or Zimbabweans' life for for the better or for good. This is the same thing and the same mentality that is being put on Chamisa. People are viewing him as the Messiah, the one that will save us from the grasp of Zanu PF. You know, this is the wrong concept. I don't understand what it will take for us to learn as Zimbabweans. What is our problem? Our problem is bad governance. Our problem is, you know, not being able to to have free, fair, and credible elections every time we hold elections. Our problem is a bad political environment that spills over into the economic and social environment of Zimbabwe. That is our problem. Our problem is not who is going to be president. That is the petty issue. That is the aftermath. Unless we realize that, I think we are just making the same mistake over and over again, just like the same mistake we made in 1980, where we thought an individual was going to be the one that is going to rescue or is going to be on a rescue mission, you know, and it turns out that individual, is not what we expect. Then what? You know, and to come back to the question that you asked, what do you think about what Mr. Dr. Mandaza, Professor Mandaza, I think, said? Eh, Personally, I don't like this God is in it, hashtag, because I think people are starting to use God in vain. People are taking advantage of the desperation of Zimbabweans And once you mention God, God is is a source of deliverance. This is why you find even we have so many churches that are sprouting all over the shore, and also taking advantage of the people. But to go in deep and to say, what he is saying, to say, he should leave the opposition, Chamisa should leave the opposition, and then allow new leadership, is also missing the point. Like I was saying, we do not need leadership. We do not need, that is the last thing that we need. Right now, we need to cleanse Zimbabwe. We need to cleanse our political environment. That is the number one thing that we need to do. And we do not need leadership for that. We need collectiveness, one purpose, and get this done. Then we will require good leadership. Good leadership comes when there is accountability, when there's traceability. So I think he's missing the point as well.
Well, Chamisa did promise the people that Triple C was going to win big and they should go and vote. And he was even claiming that his plan of plugging all the vote rigging loopholes was working. And it was God's plan. And before the election results were even out, and indeed before people had even gone to vote, he was so super confident of Triple C winning. He was telling his followers at the rally that he was preparing his cabinet. Let's hear him say that.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yaMwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
Well, the truth is, Triple C did not win the elections. He lied about plugging the vote rigging loopholes and conned people into participating in a flawed election process, giving Zanu PF political legitimacy. That cannot be understated. And for people to keep on thinking that he can continue doing that and get away with it, I think they've got the wrong end of the stick. We need to hold leaders to account. Leaders, if they can influence so many people, in last year's election, nearly 2 million people went to vote, participate in a flawed process, giving the process legitimacy because they believed the lie that he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes and that God was in it. And to suggest that somehow after the elections we should just forget it and not hold him to account is ridiculous. I firmly believe that we need to hold all leaders to democratic account, particularly those who are taking advantage of people's ignorance, naivety, being gullible, whatever it is, their weakness. I firmly believe in what the Greeks were saying, that democracy only works if the people are knowledgeable, educated, and are diligent to hold the leaders to account. Nelson Chamisa is a leader, and we must hold him to account. That should not be negotiable. And I think that is a message that, unfortunately, some people have completely missed. And for some leader to keep on escaping and pretending that he is religious, that it is God's plans, is totally unacceptable. We are not going to hold God to account of Chamisa's lies. We need to hold Chamisa to account for his lies. And one of the biggest lies was that the very lie that God is in it. God was never in these foolish, idiotic plans. Never. And I think that is what I find absolutely disappointing in some of these remarks.
Like you said before, over 2 million people voted for Chamisa in the past election, believing, the story that he had told, to say he was going to win big. It's guaranteed. A cabinet is already been drawn up, and so forth and so forth. And then here we have Mr. Mandaza saying, it's better that Chamisa departs or we will expose you. Right there, I have something wrong with it. It's very wrong. How? Why do you wait for somebody to depart or if they don't depart, you will expose them? Look, people need to know the truth. Departing or not departing is another matter at all. People deserve to know the truth. If you have information, don't go threatening. For me now, that is wrong. If you have information, say it out. The people deserve to know. So you can't say, if you depart, then I will keep quiet. That is not for you to decide. If you have relevant information that you have, bring it out. Let the people be the judge of it. Not to go and say, if you don't go, I'm going to tell. And you sound like a primary school kid. Where I remember growing up, that's how it used to be. If somebody had something on you, you would be their slave for a very, very long time until, it came out and then the story was dealt with. If you have something, say it out. It's not exposing, it's simply telling the truth. From there, I think the professor is very, very wrong. And I also believe, and I agree with you to say, Chamisa has been on record saying so many things, promising so many things, especially to a citizen that is desperate, for change. Zimbabwe is going through a very, very hard time. Zimbabweans are suffering out there in Zimbabwe. Let's say the truth as it is. Yes, Zanu PF may say it's going to be upper middle income by 2030, but now people are suffering, surviving at less than $1 a day. That is suffering. We need to have him come out and say what went wrong, and he must be able to apologize for lying. And I believe once we do that, we start mapping, a way forward. Zimbabwe does not need presidential candidates to get us out of this mess. That is totally the aftermath, like I said before. We need to fix the political environment. We need to implement the recommendations that all observer mission stated. All of them stated almost the same thing. So clearly there is something wrong there. And unless we fix that, I believe we will just be going around and round in circles, and very much to the delight of Zanu PF. This is exactly what they want. Participating in rigged elections, taking up measly seats, and life goes on. We need to change that.
Well, here is another Zanu PF, sorry, Triple C supporter, also expressing their views on why people should not hold Chamisa to account.
Ndinonakizwa zvangu unoona varume kuti anzi ye Chamisa ari kuite ye Chamisa ari wiki ye Chamisa ari wiki iwe rusitiro mwaite iwe kumirira kubvumbata kupeta maoko akamirira kuitirwa zvinhu napurezidendi Chamisa tibvire kumhepoko pavaikambeni maite tibvire kumhepoko ari wiki ari iwe ndiwo wiki kana tikakupa mukadzi checheye kuti muzvarisa ukwanise kana kumuzvarisa noswera pkamisa kuti iwe waitei semunhu womurume vamwe venyu muri muzera mwe chete napurezidendi Chamisa ndosaka muchichengeta vana vezvikomba nyaya yekudzunga vachengetesei vana zvikomba madzungairwayo pkamisa iwe waitei purezidendi Chamisa mararase
I think what is important here is to understand that for a healthy and functioning democracy, we need to hold leaders to account. That should not be negotiable. Chamisa is a senior leader of the MDC Alliance, and then Triple C. The party has been on the political stage for the last 24 years, including the 5 in the GNU. They failed to implement even one token reform. And since the GNU, they've been participating in flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy. Chamisa himself last year assured the people that he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes and conned them to participate in a flawed elections with disastrous consequences. To now turn around and say, oh, we can't hold him to account. Any man who tries to hold him to account must prove their manhood by making a woman pregnant. It's pathetic. It's absolutely ridiculous. That is the sort of base and foolishness that has led us to where we are now. We need to hold leaders to account. Whether it's your party leader or somebody else's party leader, it doesn't matter as long as the individual has held public office or has aspired to hold public office. They must be held to democratic account. That is the only way a healthy and functioning democracy works. Chamisa has got a lot to account for, and he must be held to account. That is not negotiable. And I think it is a pity that some people are failing to see that fundamental issue and why it is important. We cannot have a healthy and functioning democracy as long as we do not have leaders who are accountable to the people.
You know,
that point is absolutely not negotiable. It's not negotiable. Some people seem to believe that if it's my leader, then he is accountable only to me because I'm a party member. No, it's not. If he's holding public office, he is accountable to all the people, whether they are party members or they are not. It's irrelevant. And I think that point is unfortunately has been missed. And I think in my closing remark on this issue, I would like to emphasize again that the opposition in Zimbabwe's primary task has been to implement democratic change. The party name itself, Movement for Democratic Change, was a promise that they would deliver the democratic changes. So the people can and must hold them to account. And I think that point has got to be underlined and stated again and again. And please note, it's not negotiable.
In closing, I would like to answer, or to help out, one of our citizens that sent that video clip where he says, what have you done? President Chamisa has done a lot. Let me answer to say, campaigning is not doing anything in the situation that Zimbabwe is. Zimbabwe needs a clear slate, a clean slate in its political environment. Bringing up your name, as a candidate for a president is not doing anything. Look, anybody can do it as long as you got $20,000. You can go, and you can also fight to be president. And hopefully, from there, if you lose, you get to go into Poland. That's not doing anything to help Zimbabwe. And I'm sorry to say, he or she is missing the point by far. Putting your name for nomination as president is but a secondary issue. Zimbabwe needs to fix the political environment. So how do we do that? There are recommendations that have been put in place and have been brought forward by observer missions. This is why they come, to observe, to see where we are doing right and where we are doing wrong, and help us from there. So that is what we need to fix today. To say you haven't done anything because you have not put your name up, you have not campaigned, I think that is just as, it's sad. Basically, let me just answer, say it's just the sad way of thinking. It needs to be corrected if we are to also get out of this mess. As citizens, we need to think what is important. It's not about the candidate. It's about the process. The process is flawed. The process is illegal. That is what the observer mission statements read. It's illegal. It fell short. That is where it needs to be addressed. It never said there were few candidates or there were too many candidates. Candidates don't matter. We can have as many, even you can put your name in the hat if you have a correct political system. Nothing will there be to stop you. You won't even have to pay that much anyway. That needs to be corrected. And then we can have any other that feels that, I think I have got a chance. I mean, this is what democracy is all about. If you feel you want to do it, then you can go. So let's fight for democracy first. And then you can vote for President Chamisa if you like. That is your own freedom. But for now, let's fix the environment. Thank you.
My closing remark I would like to address some of the issues that were raised by some people who have been saying, form your own party. Anyone who dares criticize Chamisa, they should form their own party. In 2018, Zimbabwe had no fewer than 130 political parties. But that did not solve the country's economic and political mess. Proof that it is not the party that is the problem. It is the electorate. As long as we have got millions of people who can easily be conned into participating in a flawed election on the basis of an idiotic promise, like I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, the country is going nowhere. No wonder we are a failed state. Dr. Mandaza was suggesting that Chamisa should step down. But if we still have this pool of incredibly ignorant, naive, and gullible voters, it doesn't matter. Chamisa can step aside. Somebody else will step in his shoes and take advantage of those gullible people. And we will still be stuck where we are now. What we need is voters that are educated, knowledgeable, and diligent. We have got a citizen mentality who look at the bigger picture and not this tribal mentality of thinking I belong to a party and the party has got the leader and the leader must be defended at all costs. That is a tribal mentality. What we need are citizens who look at what is good for the country. And what is good for the country is that we should have the best leaders. And if you are in a public office, you should be held to account. Did you perform what you promised to perform? It doesn't matter whether I belong to your party or not. It is for the good of the country. And I think that is the quantum leap that unfortunately most Zimbabweans are failing to appreciate. Those who have defended Chamisa are no different from the Zanu PF diehards who believe that Mnangagwa is the best thing that has ever happened to Zimbabwe, regardless of the facts on the ground. This individual here, for instance, who posted this particular photograph, was saying, Chamisa no Pisa. That's, you're welcome to that comment. But in this particular case, you've got to qualify it. What has he done in 24 years, including 5 in the GNU? That is what that is the substantive issue we are talking about here. Let's hold him to account. What has he done? To just say he is hot just because you support him is to miss the point completely. If he has failed to implement reforms, then he has failed the country. That is the substantive issue. It's a pity that 44 years after independence, we're still talking about whether or not those who hold public office are accountable to the people. They are accountable to the people. And that is not negotiable. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And to those of you who were able to join us, thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you'll be able to join us again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Good night.